Welcome to Off Topic. Let's talk about the conference finals. First matchup, the Suns are up 2-0 on the Clippers. This is very surprising to me, even with both Kawhi and Chris Paul out. I didn't think this series would get to 2-0. I didn't think that the Suns would look this dominant, especially without Chris Paul. I thought that the Clippers would look better against the Suns. Last night they went back to starting a center after having been starting like Batum and Morris at center. They brought Zubac back to the starting lineup, and it still didn't work for them. Obviously, they lost on crazy alley-oop, controversial call on whose ball it should have been at the time, but Suns take it. The Suns look extremely scary. Like if they after sweeping the Nuggets, if they sweep the Clippers, if I was the Hawks or the Bucks, especially the Bucks, I think the Bucks will win that series. I'd be extremely scared of the Suns, especially if they're getting Chris Paul back. Right now, they just look unstoppable almost compared to the Clippers. I mean, it can still turn around. I don't know if Kawhi will be back. There's still no ruling on how long he's out. Chris Paul is expected or may possibly return in the next game. I believe that's what sources are saying from the COVID protocols. But the Clippers, they really need to get it together. Changes they can make, I don't know what. Like next game, they could go back to their small ball lineup. I think they need to have a bigger body center like Zubac or DeMarcus Cousins. And DeMarcus Cousins only played 4 minutes last night, but I feel like to guard DeAndre Ayton, like they need to have a big body, unlike Rudy Gobert, where they were able to just run him off the floor with their smaller lineup because Gobert isn't as much of a threat offensively as DeAndre Ayton is. So there's no one to guard him when he's down in the paint if they go to their small ball lineup. So probably keeping Zubac in the starting lineup. They really need to make a decision on like who's going to play point guard. Like they brought Rondo in because they thought they needed help at point guard, but now he's playing the least out of their 3 point guards of Reggie Jackson, Patrick Beverley, and Rajon Rondo. I think Rondo needs to be getting more minutes right now. He has the most playoff experience on this team. He's a leader. His nickname's Playoff Rondo. Last night he only played 17 minutes. Patrick Beverley's playing really good defense, but sometimes I think he can be a liability on the offensive floor. He seems to be guarding Devin Booker really well, but I don't even think he should be the primary defender on Devin Booker. I think they should put Paul George on him. So I would like to see more of Rajon Rondo. Reggie Jackson's been playing extremely well, but they did trade longtime six-man Lou Williams for Rondo, and I think they would like to have Lou Williams right now, but instead he's playing in the opposite conference, and they got Rondo for him. So I'd like to see more of Rondo. The bench needs to kind of step it up with the Clippers, especially with Kawhi out. Obviously, we saw Terrence Mann step up the other night. Luke Kennard, I'd like to see more from him. And just the rest of their bench. The Suns, like I said, they look really scary. Shout out to Cam Payne. I mean, he went from being like a backup point guard that nobody wanted unless you were a tanking team. It's called the Tank Master on the Bulls because you played him if you wanted to lose games, to now starting in the conference finals and having game high 29 points. That's ridiculous. Obviously, he won't be the starter if Chris Paul comes back, but Cam Payne's really turned his career around in Phoenix and kind of found himself a home. He's playing extremely well, just the next man up mentality, especially with Chris Paul out. Moving over to the Milwaukee and the Atlanta series. I thought that Philly would handle Atlanta in 5 or 6 games. Obviously, they didn't. They lost in 7. Red Velvet Kevin Huerter killing the game against Philly. He had a really good game. I mean, I love Kevin Huerter. Of course, he went to Maryland. I don't know if he'll have that good a game again, like he did against Game 7 against Philly, 27 points. But if the Hawks can kind of get their entire team playing well, like they were against Philly, then I think they could have a chance. It really depends on kind of defensive matchups. I don't know if the Hawks really had the best guy to guard Giannis. It's either going to be John Collins, who is not a very good defender, but is more athletic than Clint Capella to stay with him on the perimeter, but not the best post defender. Obviously, then you have Clint Capella, an above average post defender, but I think Giannis could maybe pull him out in the mid range and blow by him, get past him pretty easily. I think Drew Holiday is going to be guarding Trae Young. So it depends on, can Trae Young perform as well as he has been facing an All-NBA defender. Obviously, against Philly, they had 3 All-NBA, all defensive team defenders on their team, but none of them were ever really the primary guard on Trae Young. Ben Simmons was a little bit, but sometimes he's switching on to bigger guys, like even like guys like John Collins. So this will be Trae Young. I think this will be Trae Young's hardest defensive matchup of the playoffs so far, being guarded by Drew Holiday. Giannis is the biggest X factor. People trying to get in his head with his timing on the free throws. If he can just play his own game, I think, and be efficient at it, I think the Bucks will easily win this series. At least they should. The biggest thing for the Hawks is getting their whole team to play well, getting guys like Gallinari and Lou Williams coming off the bench, playing well, even guys like their rookie Onyeka Okongwu. That's their whole thing, because I think the Hawks are a little bit deeper than Milwaukee is, because they have guys like Gallinari that could start, but Milwaukee, their really only like solid guy coming off the bench in these playoffs has been Pat Connaughton. Bryn Forbes played really well in like the first round, but Pat Connaughton's really been the only solid guy coming off the bench. I would like to maybe see a little bit more Bobby Portis. He hasn't played that much. I think he could help out, be a little more of an athletic 5 rather than Brook Lopez. So the Hawks are much deeper than Milwaukee, so that's their bench, and their role players need to play well. Guys like Bogdanovich, Huerter needs to play well in order for them to beat Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee should handle this series. I would like Coach Budenholzer to play Giannis at center a little bit, because I think in the finals you're going to have to see Giannis at center. Either it's against the Clippers or the Suns. Let's talk about the finals a little bit. My prediction is Milwaukee versus the Suns. Guarding Giannis will be difficult for the Suns. Ayton's a little too slow to guard him on the perimeter. And I think Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder are a little bit too small to guard him in the post. We saw Jay Crowder have issues last year when the Lakers would go big and have AD at the 4. Jay Crowder would be the primary defender on Anthony Davis, and he had difficulty guarding him in like the post, because AD would just use his size against him. I think the Bucks would win this finals, but I mean, I've been wrong about the Suns. They played extremely well. But we'll talk about the finals when we get there. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, please subscribe, drop a like on the video. I really appreciate it. See you next time.